Dismiss. Alright. Part 2. Following the death of Senator Wesley Lloyd, a special election has been called in Washington to fill his seat. Frontrunners are SBA activist John F. McKay and Democratic Congressman John Main Coffey. Polls have been closed, and the winner appears to be... Let's weaken the socialists. Let's go with Mr. Coffey. Oh, and a special election in New Jersey. Following Senator Harry Moore's resignation in order to run for governor, a special election has been called in New Jersey to select his replacement. The front-runners are Democratic John Gerald Milton and AFP spokesman Charles Lindbergh. Polls have closed, and the winner appears to be Charles Lindbergh. I think the first American... I think he's the first American to fly across the Atlantic. Was it across the Atlantic or across the world? I forget. I forget. All I know is that he was also a horrible racist and a vehement anti-Semite in our timeline. And still in this timeline. But you know what? It's going to help our faction out. So, screw it, you know? A fucking leaf. Engine click. What do we got? Panama pressures Costa Rica. The Panamanians have begun a small-scale military assault on the Cota region of Costa Rica, which we have had a claim on for some time. We should threaten intervention to prevent this turning into a full-scale war. Well, we can try it. We'll see if they actually listen to us. Let's not research tanks because we don't want to give them an advantage. Let's go... What do we want to go with? I guess smoke generators and airplane catapult. We'll research naval stuff and what's primarily going to be a ground war. That'll help. Oh. Since the nomination of Governor Olson as a presidential candidate, the politically minded have discussed with great interest the likely vice presidential candidate. Finally putting the rumors to rest, Quentin Roosevelt was announced as a VP for the coalition ticket yesterday in New York City. In his announcement, he emphasized wanting to help bring major reforms to the country through a plan called the Fair Deal. Though the plan was announced by the SBA and AFP as being nowhere near enough to help the average American, economists believe that it may be enough to end the Depression. A deal that is fair, and a deal that is square. May Day, International Workers' Day. This is a holiday the Social Party celebrates with numerous parades and speeches, and has since its founding. Generally, things are peaceful, and though there have been confrontations with the police. Oh no. Oh no. However, this time things are more violent than normal. Clashes between the socialists and the local police. Oh no. Backed up by the AFP have occurred across the country. God damn it. We can't, even in video games, we can't escape what's going on right now. The question is who is at fault. The socialists declare that things were peaceful until the police and AFP goons arrived on the scene. The AFP is saying that the socialists began by assaulting ununionized workers, and they have blurry photos that they claim are guns, and that they claim are guns the SBA are brandishing. Let's blame the cops. Why not? So, even more discontent in our country. Maybe. Panama's backed down after hearing of American support for Costa Rica and not willing to escalate the situation to a full-blown conflict. The forces of Panama have begun to back down across the region. This is a victory for American diplomacy abroad. The Monroe Doctrine stands. There we go. I'm going to take a sip of water. Ah, that's nice. Agua. I'm waiting for events about the National Unity Party. See them fall apart. We got Warplan White. News and Carpathians. The time has come to dust off one of the Americans' military color-coded war plans. This one meant for dealing with domestic disturbances and insurgencies cannot come a moment too soon, as violence is escalating in areas where the AFP and SPA have been contending with local authorities for dominance. Minnesota and North Carolina are the only two states where the violence is at its height, and at the moment we can only focus our efforts in one place. Focus on Minnesota. Then we'll deploy the National Guard. Violence caused by the supporters of the America First Party and the Socialist Party of America is only getting worse. We need to increase funding to National Guard units and put most of them where their efforts count most. Fair enough. Bring out the National Guard. Send troops in. This won't backfire at all. Oh. So, chat, how are you guys doing tonight? How are your families? You guys holding up well with the whole... Still going through the pandemic. You know, the whole riots, civil upheaval, protest, all of that. How are you guys doing with it? Today, one of the titans of the industrial workers of the world, William Big Bill Hayward, has passed away. His death marks the passing of a torch. Elizabeth Gurley Flynn spoke at the funeral saying, "History has a long-range perspective. It ultimately passes stern judgment on tyrants and vindicates those who fought, suffered, were in prison, and died for human freedom against political oppression and economic slavery." Many of the leaders within various union organizations, including his rivals in the AFL, also spoke at his funeral, as well as leaders within the Socialist Party of America. Jack Reed also spoke at the funeral, ending his speech with some of Hayward's quotes. "If the workers are organized, all they have to do is put their hands in their pockets and they have got the capitalist class whipped. A strike is an incipient revolution. Many large revolutions have grown out of a small strike. Remember that you are fighting more than your own fight. You are fighting for the entire working class, and you must stand together." I already miss him. Whew. Jet's a little dead, but that's okay. We'll give him some time. We got tech. We gotta do. I guess we'll do. Let's do We'll do fuel storage. Why not? Research. That frame drop killed me. Southern Democrats complain. Although the coalition is showing signs of success. Why can't I speak? I can't speak at all tonight. I can never speak. What am I talking about? Whatever. There's already some dissident from the various factions. The loudest voices belong to those of the Southern Democrats, many of whom are much more conservative and are facing stiff competition from America First Party candidates. The coalition has been largely dominated by Northern Democrats and Republicans, with progressives being the third wing of the coalition. We could try and force a compromise by appointing Southern Democrats to the cabinet and other positions of power for win. Of course, we could also ignore the protests and focus instead of winning the elections. Let them complain. What are they gonna do? Switch parties? Everyone knows the South has never switched parties historically. There's no precedent for that. The Great Heat Wave of 36. A heat wave has struck the continental United States and Canada. The most severe heat wave in the modern history of North America. The Great Heat Wave started in late June and went up over 100 degrees Fahrenheit as drought conditions worsened due to a continued lack of rain. Now, in July, the heat has reached an all-time record. In Steele, North Dakota, temperatures have reached 121 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees European units. In Ohio, temperatures have reached 110 degrees freedom units, while 43 degrees communist units, which was close to tying a record set in 1934. This comes in a time of major political unrest, with America First Council, a major force in Midwest politics, and socialist and syndicalist forces gathering strikes in the Great Lakes region. The drought is continuing, and over 3,000 reported deaths have been linked to it. Many people are suffering from heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Farmers across the continent saw their worst harvest on record, causing corn and wheat prices to skyrocket, and this heat wave does not seem to be giving up anytime soon. This just isn't our year. Holy shit. We could send troops to the legation cities. If we had political power, which we don't. We are in the bucket when it comes to that. Holy shit. Radio. Yeah, that coup in Siam. Fuck it. Here comes the National Guard. Okay. Oh. The National Guard has been deployed for over 6 months now, fighting to maintain security in a number of American cities, but there is a growing fear that commanders within the Guard are not entirely loyal to the Republic, that many harbor sympathies for the AFP and the SPA. More focus needs to be put on strengthening the units we know are loyal. We also need to decide where to focus for deployment for the time being. Send them into Iowa. What are they going to do in Iowa? The summer heat has turned into violence and blood as cities starting with Charleston, South Carolina, throughout the country engage in brutal racial... God damn it. Why does it have to be so topical? Engaged in bloody racial riots as whites beat up blacks and burned black businesses. The number of lynchings that occurred throughout the country spiked during the summer. In response, the African Blood Brotherhood and other elements of the SPA and CSA have begun arming and fighting back. The Socialist Party of America have defended their actions and have furnished blurry photos they claim show AFP members and lynch mobs. Can this year get any fucking worse? Oh my god. Let's listen to Dougie, see what he has to say. General MacArthur has raised a solid point. New York City and Texas are two of our most vital and vulnerable strongholds. MacArthur has a plan which could see one of these areas secured should violence escalate to a full civil war. We will see what Dougie has to say. Let's get some convoys going. Gone with the Wind. Margaret Mitchell published her novel today, Gone with the Wind, which immediately became a bestseller and may be nominated for the next Pulitzer Prize. Even Hollywood is taking notice and is planning a film adaptation to be released next year. Set in the Old South during the American Civil War, many see it as an analogy for the strained political situation in the United States. Many American First Southerners claim the novel supports her cause. Well, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Oop. White sun over China, it's a normal event. But the Democrats and Republican parties have been long at odds since they came to national prominence. As we try to keep our coalition party together, a number of Democrats and Republicans have been getting into verbal conflicts, verbal shouting matches in Congress. While they are just minor members, the conflict could destabilize the whole coalition if it's allowed to spread. We can either come down hard on one side, or force some kind of compromise by either pressuring rabble-rousers to keep still until after the election. Either way, it should end dissent for now. I don't know, chat. I'll let you guys decide. Who should we side with, the Dems or the Republicans? We're not forcing a compromise, because that's a reasonable idea. And this is not the time for reasonable decisions. Dems or Republicans, who are we siding with? Alright, well, I'm gonna open up this Rockstar while you guys decide. Oh, that is very sweet. Very sweet indeed. Anything? Cassie? Any suggestions? Dems or Republicans? Should I flip a coin? give a little time. There's only one way to do this in this political climate to hopefully not upset people, though, knowing where we are right now. It might make people upset anyway, which, fair enough. We're going to argue that random chances favors one side or the other, I guess. I don't know. We'll do heads for Democrats, tails for Republicans, 2 out of 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Coin dropped. So tails, so that's Republicans, 1. 3, 2, 1. Tails again, we're siding with Republicans. Social liberalism, boost improved. Left KMT has capitulated. There goes the possibility of a left-wing China. Preposterous idea, I'm sure it would never happen in real life. Ah. For those of you watching at home, wondering what I'm drinking, this is a Rockstar Pure Zero watermelon energy drink. It's a little sweet right now. We just shall vote. We got a lot of shit happening. Southern Chinese province Sichuan. We shall vote fairly. The Liberian government, crippled by the effects of Black Monday on top of their overwhelming national debt, has sent an envoy requesting the American government to assist with a bailout. We have our own issues to deal with, but the amount they desperately need is small by comparison, and will guarantee us a continued ally in Africa. How shall we respond? Yeah, I think they're on their own. They are our puppet. Up Olson's nomination. A massive rally in Sacramento with leading members from the Republicans, Democrats, and Progressives. Governor Olson himself came out to accept his nomination as a coalition presidential candidate. This massive rally has been surprisingly well received by the press and those attending it. Hopefully it can translate to election results. If it'll last. Current voted. Ireland's joined the Reich Pact. Oh, we actually can vote on this, right? Unless, what, helping out. You know what? Yeah. I'll vote yes. The vote passed. Okay. Interesting. There is growing concern that America is descending into a possible civil war, and that despite all our efforts to maintain security, supporters of the AFP and the SBA simply have too much influence in some parts of the country. General Douglas MacArthur has unveiled a plan to infiltrate key areas in either New York City or southern Texas. Both are of high importance, New York for its industry and Texas for its oil. Both are at high risk for takeover. MacArthur says that these efforts might still come to naught if the AFP and SBA's power become too great, but he believes it will greatly increase the government's chances of maintaining control should it come down to an armed conflict. Let's go with New York. Get the fuck out of here. You fucking socialist. Get out of here. Let's piss off Canada even more. Canada refused to pay the war debts, unsurprisingly, and thus, in return, our only option is to pass punitive tariffs on Entente goods imported into the U.S. That will put some money into our coffers, though repairing relations with Canada will take a long time. What are we? Who's messaging? What do I got? To announce my loyalty to only 2 people. Ah. Fuel storage. Up. Violence has reached the political theater. Oh dear. For some time, the violence has been mostly between the supporters of the radical parties. However, recently the violence is now reaching the candidates and politicians themselves. Failed attempts on the lives of both Huey Long and Jack Reed have occurred in the past few months. Both gunmen shooting from a crowd, both failed, and both resulted in higher security. Several more local politicians have been stabbed during campaign rallies. Moreover, voters from both extremes are turning a blind eye to the violence done to their enemies. More fucking violence! Hell yeah! I'm gonna sneeze. Shit. Alright. I'm just gonna keep up. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party were just like the old patent medicine drummer that used to come around the country. He had 2 bottles of medicine. He'd play that banjo and he'd sell 2 bottles of medicine. One of that bottles of medicine was called High Popularum. Another one of those bottles of medicine was called Low Papahiram. Finally, someone around there said, "Is there any difference in these bottles of medicines?" "Oh," he said, "considerable. They're both good, but they're different," he said. "That High Popularum is made from the bark of a tree that we take from the top down. And that Low Papahiram is made from the bark that we take from the root up. And the only difference I have between the Democratic leadership and the Republican leadership was that one of them was skinning you from the ankle up and the other from the ear down when I got to Congress. Homely sayings do not win elections." Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, ladies and gentlemen.